When we were younger, we didn't have any comparisons. We didn't have people telling us how to feel, where to eat, what to do, and how our life should be lived. Everything was experienced, discovered. Today, everything has to match a certain standard. How good you are, your worth is judged today in terms of your social media followership.
To really prove your own worth to yourself, you will try to get likes, you'll try to show off your body, you'll try to get to do like the worst things possible just for that little moment of validation.
What kind of signs should a parent be looking out for to be sure that their child is mature enough to handle the pressures of social media?
But what they don't realize is when the child doesn't get that amount of love at home, they're going to try to find it somewhere else. Because I feel like in a way that also reflects the lack of support that they have internally.
What could parents do a little bit differently to help their children feel more secure in this social media era?
I think what's an actual solution that parents can look out for is hearing them out. Having a conversation with your child is not just about being a teacher, providing solutions.
Whenever they spend time with their kids, they're only talking about performance, achievement, what has been done in terms of completing academics, rather than spending quality time or fun time. Today followers can be bought, and likes can be bought, and comments can be bought, and I think we need to find our confidence more in who we are than your online persona. Hello parents, and welcome to another interesting episode of the ProParent podcast. I'm your host Urvashi, a Stanford certified child and teen behavioral psychologist, and today with me I have a bunch of lovely teenagers who are going to talk to us about something really important that is influencing our young children's minds and we need to be careful about, and something that the movie Adolescence also is trying to tell us and talk to us about. And the topic for today is exploring how body image issues, self-identity confusion, and toxic masculinity impact teenagers today in this hyper-digital, hyper-performative culture, leading them to do things which can even be extreme or harmful to themselves and others. So let's see, who do we have with us talking about this very interesting but important topic today? Let's begin with you.
I'm Sachi. I'm Anahat Misra.
I'm Nick Ghosh.
And all of them are a lovely bunch of teenagers just stepping onto the threshold of adulthood from adolescence, right? So I can safely say that you've seen it all, right? Starting from your pre-teens into your teens, dealt with social media and its influence in your daily life, and seeing how it's affecting you and your friends. And I'm sure this is going to be a fun and interesting conversation, yet very important as well. So today we are unmasking something a lot of teens feel but they rarely talk about. These images such as self-worth issues and body image and trying to fit in and just trying to define what it really means to be enough in today's world, right? And that just brings me to a very important question. When we were younger, we didn't have any comparisons. We didn't have people telling us how to feel, where to eat, what to do, and how our life should be lived. Everything was experienced, discovered, and whatever we had was good enough. Today everything has to match a certain standard. What do you think about this, Nick, and why is this happening and how is it affecting youngsters?
Right, thank you for having me. So I think because of the modern era where we can actually quantify kind of everything that we're doing, right? So perhaps having a conversation was very easy back then. You can it's just a normal conversation, we're talking. But now, because obviously because we're on social media, people's reactions to what we're saying, people's interpretation of what we're saying can be quantified. So let's say Anahat posted like a picture of some, or at least like an opinion. You can track what she's saying with likes, with comments, with people quantifiably agreeing or not. And even though that might not be exactly what's happening, you can very well see something that's visually you can understand, okay, this person's doing well, this person's not, this person has more likes, this person does not. And being able to compare yourself just gives you more scope to feel more insecure about yourself. So let's say if I everyone's different in that regard. But because of social media, we're put under a very similar spotlight. And every boy, every girl is pit against each other to like very similar standards which do not make sense. And there's no one to tell us that this doesn't make sense, that everyone leads different lives. So maybe that's a reason that this is, really popping off now.
And I think a very important thing you brought out here, Nick, is that how good you are. Your worth is judged today in terms of your social media followership and adoration. How many likes your post gets, how many comments your post gets, how many follows you have on your account. And say if an X person has 500,000 followers, oh, then this person is really good.
Right.
And if say somebody has 500 followers, maybe this person is not that good, right? And today I see that even percolating into professions and businesses, that, oh, are you a good doctor? Let's see how many followers they have on Instagram. Or are you a good psychologist? Today, credibility, experience, education, everything on one side. And people who are not even qualified or educated, if they have followers, people trust them, right? So in some way, I think what you are on social media has become more powerful than what you are in real life. And that, I think, is a lot of pressure. And this brings me to a very important question to all of you, that isn't this causing a lot of pressure on teenagers today?
Absolutely.
Who have a certain image? And it's not just a girl thing, right? What do you have to say, Nick, that are men also feeling this pressure to have this perfect body or perfect life, or XYZ material possessions? What do you think about this?
Absolutely. So what's, I think, one aspect for boys, like if women compare beauty, then for boys also, like the way you put yourself forward, like your fitness, etc., is there. But another thing that's also very important is perhaps your financial status, which is surprising. Because well, if you look like 20 to 30 years ago, kids were kids, and that's what they should be, right? We're just here to have fun, we're trying to learn, and we're not here to really put ourselves on like a marketplace, trying to sell ourselves, which is ridiculous. And that's what kids from the age of 8, 9, maybe 11 have already begun to do. Where you have kids trying to flex their wealth or trying to, show off their body, because frankly, there's a lack of love. And I've realized this like the hard way. Love is just not prevalent in society because of, when you feel that social media is going to get you very connected to people, it's just caused more boundaries. People have closed up because you're vulnerable. Every single thing you do is available on the internet, and it really makes you feel lost. So to really prove your own worth to yourself, you will try to get likes, you'll try to show off your body, you'll try to get to do like the worst things possible just for that little moment of validation, because you perhaps can't love yourself and you've lost the ability to do that because of whatever reason. And with boys also, like we think that beauty is only like something girls compare each other with, but that's something even boys do. And it's in fact it's very prevalent with the new gym influencer boom, where people have stopped taking fitness as something to take care of themselves and more to really sell themselves. And that I'm a fit person, I have this much money, I talk to these many girls. It's very it's very, very quantified. Like it's actually terrible for like one's mental health.
Toxic, you could say.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
I would like to dig this deeper,
Go ahead.
Nick, with both of you, that in what ways can this lack of love or insecurity be visible, to a parent when they see their child? Could it be some form of underconfidence, anxious behavior, irritability? What do you think what kind of signs should a parent be looking out for? To be sure that their child is mature enough to handle the pressures of social media, or if they are crumbling under social media, because everybody can't, like you rightly said, it's hard, first of all, to accept that you don't love yourself or there's not enough love around you. And, to mask that pain or that feeling, in fact, we go out there seeking for external validation. So, how can parents, look for these signs in their kids? You guys need to help us out here.
So I think what parents keep trying to do is protect their children from social media because they feel like it's feeding a certain image. But what they don't realize is when the child doesn't get that amount of love at home, they're going to try to find it somewhere else. And that most of the time is on social media. So I feel like what parents really need to realize is why does their child feel the need to have that external validation from somebody else, from some random stranger, some online friend, which is a result of the lack of support and empathy that the parent may be giving their child.
So true.
So I feel like, I don't know, symptoms or like signs could be, excessive use of social media as, like hours and hours constantly talking to maybe random people, maybe talking to friends they don't know, and not being able to feel enough or sufficient without it. So I feel like, I know a lot of people who felt almost paralyzed without being able to talk to people online and everything, because I feel like in a way that also reflects the lack of support that they have internally, maybe within themselves, maybe within their parents.
What do you think is causing this lack of support, Sachi? Like, why are children feeling unloved today? Like, if parents are listening to us, they would definitely want to know that how can I make my child feel loved, or what do I need to do so that my child feels enough? And this could be purely your opinion, but I would love to know that what could parents do a little bit differently, to help their children feel more secure while coexisting in this social media era. Right?
Yeah. So I think now these days, now that both parents are working, I think they spend very little time with their children, which they should, because this one makes the child feel very isolated, and that's why the child resorts to making friends on social media. So I think they need to spend some more time with their child. Communication would be key. So if they have any problem, talk it out, sort it out. That's it. And communication, and I think spending some time.
I think, in fact, so beautifully put by all three of you, that the more time we spend with our children, the more, time we give them is just the basic thing, right? It doesn't, but it just needs us parents to be more mindful and plan our days better. Also, being a psychologist, I would like to say that a lot of parents make, and tell me if you would agree with this, make a this very simple cardinal mistake, and that is whenever they spend time with their kids, they're only talking about performance, achievement, what has been done in terms of completing academics, what has not been done, or trying to find faults in your child's schedule, like why haven't you gone to this class, or why, and children, rather than spending quality time or fun time, parents end up being the teacher in the relationship, and the child, in fact, pushing the child away. Have you all experienced this? Like, what do you have to tell parents? Like, if today you would have to want to tell parents something that, when you spend time with us, please don't do this or do this, what would that be?
Right. So, I have a lot to say about this. The thing is, you rightly said, parents are there where there is a lack of performance or something performance based. Parents are treating conversations as problem solving. Okay. So, as you said, it's such a basic thing to talk to your child. I think what parents have begun to forget is that having a conversation with your child is not just about being a teacher, providing solutions. It should be the most basic thing for you to do, where your child should be comfortable enough to just, one day just tell you about like a car they saw, or like if they had a funny conversation with a friend. You should have that sort of atmosphere and stop treating conversations as problem solving stations, right? Where I'll go to my child, he'll come with me come to me with his problems, and then we'll just sort it out, and that's how it is. We're not like, that's not your job all the time. A parent's job is also to be a friend, because at the end of the day, you can have as many friends as you want, but no one's going to be as close to you, and no one can be as vulnerable with you as like your son or your daughter and your child. So your kids are genuinely going to look at you as someone who's like the most available source for you to confide with.
Yeah.
And if you're not able to create that environment where you can come regardless, so that's a problem. And also when you spoke about we wanted to discuss symptoms or like signs, right? Even when we spoke about the Netflix docu series, we saw that in adolescence the child had no visible signs per se. The parents couldn't see anything. So the parents saw this, you know, very cute child they had who wouldn't even possibly do something like this, and he went on to commit something horrendous, like a horrendous act. You can't expect to know your child just by being an observer. You need to be a very integral part of their life. You have to actually be involved in their life, where they're not just going to come to you when they have a problem, but even when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're just normal,
Yeah.
they do come to you. So creating that environment with your child where you can just, you know, one day go up and talk to them every day. That's important, yeah.
And I think, taking from what you're saying, parents need to realize one more thing, which I feel is that no longer are they the only influencer in their child's lives. You know, previously when we were younger, you know, the people we looked up to and who we wanted to be like were our parents, our relatives, or our parents' friends, you know, because that was our limited exposure.
Right.
But when we talk about the docu-series Adolescence, you know, it shows us, like you said, that young child, you know, was looking up to a persona or image like an Andrew Tate, or
Right.
somebody, you know, who's very masculine and, you know, who treats women in a certain way. And, you know, parents need to realize that in today's world, if you are not going to be an integral part of your child's life, other than you, somebody is taking hold of their minds,
Right.
influencing them, probably not in the right way. And today parents can't afford that. You know, and that doesn't mean you micromanage or you become a helicopter parent, but like you all mentioned, you know, you have a very strong communication channel where your child can talk to you about anything and everything.
Makes sense.
Without them feeling that you're going to judge them or constantly try to provide a solution, but just listening, isn't it? So where do you think these neo-influencers or pressures on kids to be like somebody or to ape somebody, where are these pressures coming from? Are they influencers? Are they Bollywood superstars? Or what do you think is the real source of these pressures which young people feel today? And, you know, it's natural, you know, heroism is natural, hero worship is natural, but today I think the pressure to live up to it is too high. And where do you think is the source? What do you think, Sachi?
So, I think one of the main sources will be all these famous personalities that we see today on social media, television, everywhere. Because so it's like the kid knows that they've lived up to the standards and they've fit into the society. And the kid thinks that now that this personality has fit in, I can do the same and I can fit in too. So they tend to do what the famous personality is doing, just think that,
You mean mindlessly aping?
yeah.
Right. What do you have to say, Anahat?
I feel like the main source of like these type of people are on social media, but you know they're selling courses and giving like a wrong message that, you know, if you act the way I do, if you act the way I do in regards to women, in regards of money, in regards of, you know, studies, then you'll achieve success. And now obviously I feel like especially in males, they've all been told to succeed, you know, to do something with their lives. And I feel like that's what really attracts them, you know, the idea that one day they'll be this like multi-billionaire and they'll have many cars and everything. So I feel like they feel like, you know, you can't really follow it at that type of stage, but you know, the beginning stages, simply thinking the way these influencers think, you know, acting the way, having the same values and morals is what I feel like, you know, is really influencing them. And especially with all these, like, I don't know, I feel like it's really easy to have influence nowadays on social media. You know, anybody is given a position of power to talk about whatever they want. So I think, you know, that's also a reason as to why they're able to gain so much reach and to entice so many young kids into, you know, behavior such as this.
The next thing I wanted to ask you was this trap of toxic masculinity, which has now become the in thing, this mold or this framework that, okay, so many cars, so many $1 million, fit life, so many girls in your arm like eye candies, and that is what a man should be. And for me, that's a very toxic projection of masculinity. What are really boys thinking? That is this what I want to be, or how does it make them act and feel or affect everybody around them when they see such toxic masculinity constantly around them?
So I think to begin with, we should talk about how this starts, right? What happens is, as you rightly mentioned, people sell courses. And an important thing is, when you have a bunch of mindless teenagers with no hope, and you sell them a dream, they will latch on to that dream as soon as they can. If you give them just a sliver of hope that, one day maybe they'll first remind you of the terrible life you're living. Even though you might not be, they'll make you feel like you're living the worst possible life in the world. And then they'll show you their life. You're living a horrendous life. Look at me. I have this. Do you want to be like me? Obviously, one would, want to, because they have no hope in life. They have no guidance. Maybe because of, parents not being able to guide them towards a brighter place where they feel hope, which is like one of the most important things a boy can feel, hope. And when you're given that hope on like a silver platter, you will run at it. And that's why these boys, it's out of pure desperation. It's out of pure, feeling that please just one day, if I could also be where this man is. And that really gets to you. It gets to every guy. Where you're looking at, why wouldn't you want to be here? Because you're only seeing what he wants to show you. You're not going to see the terrible life that he might be living. And you're going to compare, because again...
Or how his life is completely sponsored.
Correct, that also. Usually the cars they have are also rental cars. And there's a lot of things like that. There's a lot of things. And boys are fickle. They're young. They will look at it and they'll be like, obviously it's real. So you run. And you keep hurting people around you, and you keep getting angrier and looking at the person and thinking his ideals, his look out to masculinity, that women don't deserve this. Being a man is silencing, making sure you have control over someone. It gives you power, and that kind of thing really entices the youth, so they just run behind it. And they hurt people while...
Having said this, what do you all think about the movie Animal?
I haven't watched it.
You haven't watched it?
Okay, so the thing with the movie and what the director tried to say to justify it is that he said this is just a normal movie. I'm not trying to make him a hero. I'm just showing this guy as he is. But what happens is you don't understand how social media is there, but even soft power movies, shows, these can really impact people if they don't have a proper understanding of what's happening. So when a boy would see that movie, he'd be like, wow, that's so cool, I wish I could be like him. And that's a terrible mindset. But the thing is, that boy is not going to go tell his parents all this, right? He's going to go to his friends, or he's going to go to people that are probably not as mature or less mature than him. And when you mentioned micromanaging or being a helicopter parent, I think what's an actual solution that parents can look out for is hearing them out. Hearing what they think, not seeing what they're doing, yelling at them for thinking a certain way, but just understanding them. If your child has watched Animal, if your child starts idealizing the character, you need to sit down with him and understand why. Because let's say if I had watched the movie and even I had the smallest inkling to be like him, be a horrible toxic person, and I didn't talk to an adult or someone more mature than me, and I went straight to my immature friends, then I would obviously be drawn to that character. So having that bond with your parents is really important in that regard.
Thank you for bringing that out, right? Because I guess responsible cinema, responsible storytelling, as important it is, we can't depend on that. There is cinematic freedom, there is freedom of expression. People can, have their own interpretation and versions of the same thing. But in all of this, I guess, absolutely right, is understanding what your child has taken away from it. rather than judging them or trying to give them gyan or constantly telling them, but just understanding how your child is thinking, why they are thinking, and putting some pros and cons and logic, and enabling your child to think better and more maturely. Right. So now we know that boys and girls both feel so much pressure alike, to live up to certain standards, but not all of them are actually appreciated. Right? So what do you have to say, Anahat, about this toxic masculinity or this sigma personality that boys feel they need to live up to, and what do girls really want? Is this something they want or not?
Yeah, so I want to give an example of my friend. So he was a really sweet guy, he had really good morals, and he was the type of guy to, if you went out, he wouldn't let you pay, or he'd do, like, your friends are covered for you. But I really knew that, I knew he was really into that scene where, he was being affected by these influences and everything. And I would see that his behavior would change progressively over how he was in real life versus how he was online. Online, you can see the reels people have liked, and I would see him like the most degenerate stuff ever. It would be, talking about anything, it would be slut shaming women or anything, and he'd like all of that and engage with such content. Whereas I knew him personally, and I knew that that wasn't, his real personality. I knew that in real life he was a very sweet guy. Like, being friends with me, he was very respectful. And I think it just hurt me to see someone changing good parts about themselves to fit up to a certain standard, which he must have deemed as weak. He must have deemed being extra nice or just being generally nice to women as, being weak or being desperate. But whereas as, his friend who was a girl, I really appreciated that parts because he was an empathetic boy. He was really mature, and he really knew how to communicate his feelings well. But slowly, as he became more into indulging such content, I could see, and it also made me believe that were those reels that he was liking or the message behind those reels really his beliefs. It really made me doubt the friendship and how he even viewed me.
I guess it probably makes you feel like, you don't really know the person, and who to trust and who not to trust. But what I understand is, I don't think women appreciate this toxic masculinity, or men who are trying to act as more powerful, or want women to be submissive and things like that, right? There was something you really wanted to talk about, Nick.
Before that, I just wanted to expand on this. Why do you think that happened? Why do you think that boy was brought to this kind of this other mindset totally, even though he was a good person earlier? What do you think brought about that change?
Because I feel like these influencers, they try to deem these likable characteristics, or what at least what we women feel being nice, being respectful, as being weak. I've seen so many videos where men think, or young boys think that rejecting a girl makes them sigma, or makes them all of that. So I feel like he was led to believe that these good characteristics or sensitive parts about himself was things that he was lacking in. He needed to quote unquote toughen up and be more rash, or think a certain way, because that's the type of message that he was being given.
Right. So the thing is, I kind of understand where he was coming from, because what's happened is, you've obviously seen a sudden change in him. Okay, you've seen him go from a nice person to someone who isn't really idealistic. But the problem that is perhaps empathy in that regard, where me being a guy, I can understand what's happened, because the thing with boys is, vulnerability is a very it's almost inexistent, and we're scared. It's not us being strong, it's us being scared. Because what usually happens is, when we try to open up, when we try to be nice, when we try to actually maybe hold the door for someone or pay for their meal, you feel sidelined. You feel like, while I'm the one holding the door for this girl, she's going to go and go on a date with someone else, and that makes a guy feel powerless. It makes them feel insecure, and they tie that problem to their personality. It's not something else for them. It's that because I'm nice, because I hold the door open for someone, for those reasons, people walk over me. People, because I'm vulnerable, people can take advantage of me, and that hurts. Like, as a guy, I can tell you this confidently, where it's very difficult to, it's like being nice comes to us naturally. If a guy is not nice, he's doing that purposely. Like, it's not inbuilt. Yeah. It's like, it's an innate thing for us to be
Like a
kind.
defense mechanism.
It was like
Because
a conscious
you're hurt.
effort
Right.
to be a certain way. Like I could tell that, he wanted to be, I don't know, but it was like even he knew naturally in natural conversations, it was just like the niceness and the kindness and the maturity came to him. Whereas I could see that when he liked the certain reels, it was almost as if, that was like a version of himself that he was either trying to achieve or either trying to like portray to others that, this is how I am or this is how I think.
But then again, my question to you guys is, how do you think as girls, how could, even though it's not your responsibility per se, but the boys around you, be it your brothers or even normal friends, how do you create an environment for them where they feel like they aren't, being taken for granted, where they don't feel walked over? Because obviously the reason he does something like this is because of external causes too, where he realizes that something he's doing is causing him a problem. Now, what
or
can
is
you do? Yeah.
unacknowledged,
Right.
or is not appreciated, and
yes.
like you said, and this constant feed of the bad boys get all the girls,
Yeah.
and you feel, what's the use of being chivalrous or being genuine or vulnerable when it's going to just bring me hurt? And I think that's a very important question, that what can then us as family or women or the feminine is in their life, how can we help them feel confident in those behaviors? What do you think?
Wait, I have a question for this.
Go ahead.
Whatever you said, is this why men or guys these days want princess treatment?
Can you expand on that question? Like,
Like you said, that opening the door and everything else. So you're doing it because you have a fear that she'll go on other days, someone else might
Right.
or whatever.
yeah.
So is this why you want princess treatment? Like you want the girl to open the door or whatever?
I think I get what you're saying. Okay, yeah, maybe. So, if I get this right, like basically, so this is a conversation I had with a friend of mine who had gone through a breakup, and it was very evident, and she said this out of a place of anger, but it made sense, where she said that every guy is insecure, and that made sense because that is again our innate, like personality, like it's our innate trait. But it's not, but the way you target that insecurity really defines you as a man. Because you can either ignore your insecurity, you can either tie it to something quantified like likes, etc., or you can just be a terrible person, or or you can again like ask for princess treatment, where you feel security in that regard, that someone else is doing stuff for me, and that I don't have to be chivalrous, I don't have to do this, and no one's doing anything out of the goodness of their heart. No one wants to open the door without an ulterior motive, they everything, that's like a rarity now, that someone's genuinely chivalrous. And for that to return, we need to internalize and understand, maybe it's not your fault obviously, but what is leading this guy to think this way, what is leading this man to think that being nice is the problem, instead of fixing what's up there, what the internal insecurities he has. So something like that maybe. Yeah.
I guess so, and I think it's not as easy as we think it is.
Yeah,
It's
it's really
layers of upbringing and teenage adolescence experiences and the rejections we face that decide who we idolize and who we don't, and what kind of people we become. But I guess the whole point in this discussion is that we need to groom our sons and be role models and appreciate more of the more genuine and nicer things, and kind of educate them
Right.
about these accounts and people, and like I said, most of it which is sponsored, or they don't even own those things, and today followers can be bought and likes can be bought and comments can be bought, and I think we need to find our confidence more in who we are than your online persona. So, very simple next question that I want to follow up with. Do you think fathers can play a very strong or important role by just jumping into this situation and showing their sons, that what really matters in life, what doesn't, and how everything takes time and how you have to work for it? And what role would a father have to play in giving their sons this sense of security or a reality?
Got it. So I think the best example I can take is of my own father, right? So my father started off from like really, really humble beginnings. Like he was like ekdam bottom of the barrel, but like he climbed his way up to the top, and now we can say that we're living a comfortable life. And people have often, like the crowd have always been surrounded by, like like the area, etc., the upbringing. People have always been extremely materialistic, but the more important thing is insecure. Okay, right? Internally, them not being able to control, like they have to prove themselves to everyone. Like parents will have to prove themselves to another set of parents by showing how well their child is doing,
Yeah.
or what car they're driving, etc. And so my dad drives a Wagoner, and like a very beaten up Wagoner, and like it's actually like it's something I used to look down at, like why are you driving such a terrible car? You can buy another one. And like one day when I asked him this upfront, I received a fair response where he said that he used to, he used to like be very lavish with his spending. He used to throw money here and there, and people would, really appreciate him. People would surround him. He was like having the time of his life. But then he realized those people are as temporary as the wealth he has. The more he spends, the more these people come. And that's when I realized that, perhaps this is something that I am doing myself too, not maybe with money, but with anything else. Where when you try to prove yourself to someone else, they are tying your self-worth to that particular thing. They don't like you for you. They like you for what you're doing. They like you for what you own, for etc.
Yeah.
And for him to take the courage to not spend, to drive like a normal car or wear very basic clothes, he said that even though people will not look at me like with respect, I can confidently say that the people with me are with me just for me. And that's really important because, and I realized this only after speaking to my father, which perhaps never in my life would I have understood, that it's such a simple thing. Your self-worth is tied to just you and your morals and just what you think, what's up here, not what's around you. And to have that, sort of confidence in yourself that, you're enough is something you cannot find nowadays. You can't look at a child and that child cannot confidently tell you that they're enough.
Yeah.
Because firstly, no one's telling you that. No one's telling a child that, listen, you don't have to score. This all is just external stuff. You are enough, and that what you're doing is perfectly all right. And your morals and the values and the way you treat people is what's more important. So, if fathers or even mothers for that matter can step in and really be like a figure for them and tell them that, listen, it's all right, it's fine. You don't need to be so concerned with everything. You can just stop, breathe in and breathe out. That's as simple as life gets. So maybe, really getting, because it's not that complex of a thought, but people forget it. People forget that living is so simple. And a child, imagine, he's just a child. And almost most of our friends, most of the people that are around us are struggling so much. Like everyone's going through the worst because they're just worried for the future. They don't have hope and they just can't, be happy with themselves as they are.
And why do you think they are so worried at such a young age? Like
Yeah.
when we began this conversation, I really appreciated that you said, we are just kids.
Yeah.
We just want to learn and have some fun.
Right.
But the tables have turned, and why have children become so anxious today? Why are they so concerned about the future? What is ticking them off so badly?
The world has become like a proper race. When you realize that everything's getting harder to do, like winning is harder. Because I'll take the example of like science, where in the 40s and 50s, it was like a gold mine for discoveries. Everyone was making discoveries left and right in science, humanities, all these fields. But now it's really slowed down because और क्या ही discover करोगे, right? There's not much more to discover. In the same way, competition has gotten very, very tight. But what's the bigger problem is that you can see this competition. You can see Elon Musk being at the front of everything. You can see this person doing this well, this that.
Yeah.
You don't need to. You don't need to be the world's number one person. You don't need to do something so extraordinary. But you're sold this dream. You're sold the fact that maybe you can also one day be like the number one person, and you will be better than everyone. And you feel that only when you reach that destination are you worthy of looking yourself in the mirror and smiling.
At
Yeah.
such a young age
Yeah.
of 15, 16,
Exactly.
17.
You have kids at the age of 11 being like not able to even look up at, like I have friends who can't even look at the mirror, who feel so terrible about themselves, who are doing well. They get like 80% grades, they're doing fairly in sports, but because they have mentally just made a 10 times better version of themselves in their head, they can't breathe in their own skin. They want to just exit their own skin and just go be in another, like a better version of themselves. Because again, you're quantifying what's good. You're telling a child that you got these many marks, you make this much money, you have like these girls are talking to you, you drive this car, only then are you a good person. And that doesn't make sense because it's all internal. And if the problem is internal, the solution is internal too. You need to breathe and just talk to yourself because it's fine.
Absolutely.
I would like to add to that. So, yeah, not just internal, but your parents also play a very important role. So, the other day, I don't know, my mom just came across some reel and she showed it to me. She was like, oh, look, a 15, 14-year-old earning this much. She's so successful, startup and everything. And I was like, but I'm also trying my best.
Yeah.
Doing it. I'm getting grades, everything that you wanted me to. But no, she's always gonna compare. In fact, not just my mom, I think it's
Most moms.
yes, all parents. So they just tend to compare, not look at their own kids. They have a very important role.
Do you think this comes from the parents' insecurity of not being a good parent?
Yes, absolutely.
Because what I have seen is there are so many mothers today who are using tools like WhatsApp, groups, or just their general chit chat time to constantly talk about what their kids are doing, where they are at, whose kid is doing what, or is into how much skilling themselves, like football, arts, sports, gymnastics, debate, public speaking, you name it, and their child is doing that. And I think the pressure on the parents whose child is not is like, okay, if I'm not making my child do all these things, I'm not good enough, or somewhere my child is going to be left behind. And what do you think on this constant need of parents discussing their kids and where their kids are at, and trying to one up each other on that?
Makes
Like you just brought up this point, what do you think about it?
So I think, yeah, of course, parents would look at other children and then compare their own with others. But I think it's more important to focus on your own child and your child's improvement, not comparing the child with others, but with himself. So if there's improvement, it's a good thing. Shouldn't compare with others. All the child would be asking for is just being a little more understanding. Put yourself in the child's place and, just imagine what the child must be going through. Because this pressure is just crazy. I mean, all of us are facing it right now. And we would all just want our parents to have a conversation about it with us, understand us more, and just not compare, because the world is full of competition right now.
Absolutely. So, speaking about toxic masculinity, that's something that boys definitely feel the need to live up to today. But what about girls? Do you think young girls are also, feeling pressure to live up to certain standards of beauty, or, they feel the need to entice the opposite sex at a very young age, or look pretty, or look beautiful, or, just change their appearance, or, having heard that young girls even at the age of 15, 16 are taking Botox and fillers and whatnot. So do you feel the same toxic impression being put out, and what is the pressure girls are feeling nowadays? which parents should know about?
Yeah, I think a lot of the pressure comes first from like, online models and everything. Because you see, even though Photoshop exists and we know that,
Yeah.
models and everything, they do Photoshop their pictures to like unrealistic standards.
Yeah.
But I feel like it still doesn't help us from like, being in awe even to, like how they look and, how thin they would be, or, how good, like how clear their skin would be and everything. So it's like, I don't know, it's just when you see so many perfect people on Instagram, which even if it's manipulated, you can't help but compare. And it's also that women, especially, always go viral and everything because of their beauty. So I feel like, there's this like kind of, how do you say it? In a way, women get more of their attention online if they look good. So I feel like that's also a kind of message that's being spread to is that, the only way you can get validation or love or attention is if you look a certain way.
And what do you think girls are doing nowadays to achieve this perfection?
I personally, know of people who, even if they don't really necessarily have eating disorders, but they may be restrictive in their eating, they may feel that, I've eaten a lot, like, in the morning, I've eaten something that's unhealthy, so I can't have it again. Or, even if they have eaten it, I feel like they talk in a very bad sense towards their food, Like, I feel like constantly talking about dieting and, being like, okay, an event is coming up, so now I need to start dieting to look good in those pictures.
And how old are these girls?
Our age.
15, 16, 17.
And even with TV shows especially, like I think it's a big issue because you have these grown women playing 14-year-olds. Okay, because obviously these TV shows never hire someone who's actually 14 or 15.
Yeah.
So these like TV shows which is based in high school, but you have 28-year-old women playing it. So they obviously look a certain way and then they get praised for their beauty and their standards. I feel like it sets a very wrong tone because you think at your like, prepubescent body, or you think like, how you are right now, obviously not fully developed or having acne and everything. And you see their clear skin and well-developed body and you think, why not me?
So if you had to give one message to the boys and girls who are listening to you right now, what would you tell them? Because a lot of them are stepping into their teens and are in their adolescent years and are feeling the pressure. And if you could say something to them so that they get the right perspective or ease their pressure, what would it, that one real thing that you want to tell them from your heart, all of you?
Right. So I think I would say that expressing your emotions is very important. There's like nothing wrong in it. So you should express your emotions. And as far as influence is concerned, please have a good influence and avoid the bad ones on social media especially.
Absolutely.
I feel like looks wise, there's really no need to uphold like yourself to an unachievable standard. And I feel like you're never going to be the same age again. You're never going to be 16 and be able to move this freely or have this much energy. So I think it's really important to enjoy this moment while you have it. Because 30 years down the line, you're going to look back at it and you're going to think, wow, I was so beautiful. I was so young and fit looking and, fresh. So I think this is a moment, especially teenage years, which are so exciting. I think we need to cherish.
What would you say to all the young boys listening to you right now?
Maybe walk up to the mirror, look at yourself and just smile, think that you're enough because you genuinely are. And you will always have people who care for you. You'll always have people who have your back. And we often push them away just to like reach a dream that we want to achieve, but that's not needed. You have people. So just smile, yeah.
So I think the message here that we all are trying to give is be happy with who you are and what you are, and you're unique in your own way, and you're never going to get it back. And you're absolutely right. You're not going to be 16 again, or 20 again, or 25 again. And these moments are fleeting, and if we don't cherish them, we are going to lose out on them. And one day we are going to just regret that why was I so preoccupied or concerned with what others have to think or what others are doing, and I lost out on who I really am and where I want to be and what makes me happy, isn't it? Letting everybody know that girls and boys today are feeling the pressures alike, And I think it's high time that as parents we wake up and have these real conversations with them as to what subliminal or messages these accounts or these influencers are trying to pose, and how it's affecting our children's mind. What is it that they, it's leading them to think, and is it making them, or is it inspiring them, or actually under the garb of inspiration making them extremely self-critical and low in confidence? That is a question we need to ask, and this is what we need to address. But thank you so much to all three of you for coming here and sharing what is real, what is close to your heart, and what you feel. And I'm sure so many of us could relate to this, and this was really, really helpful and insightful. And even if one teenager or one child out there can listen to this and feel a little more confident about themselves, our hearts will be filled with gratitude. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and hope to see you soon. Good luck.